Hi, I'm Shannon, and today I'm going to share step 3 in the series that I'm running this month with key steps to achieving more sustainable and sustained success as you define it this year and beyond. And the reason I'm doing this is that not only my experience, but the studies and the research show that the way that most of us go about setting goals, the way that most of us approach New Year's resolutions if we set them, doesn't actually set us up to achieve the outcomes that we're envisioning. And that's why the data shows that the vast majority of us who, for instance, set a New Year's resolution will have already given up on that by sometime at the end of January going into early February. And I'd like to support you in achieving those most important outcomes across all dimensions, all areas of your life, personally, professionally, hobbies, relationships, your health and well-being, your financial success. And so I'm sharing a few of those keys this month. And if you'd like to download the guide with all 5 steps that I use myself, that I use with clients, whether they're businesses or organizations or they're individuals that I'm coaching, you can get that guide, get that PDF by clicking the link above or below this video wherever you're viewing it. So I invite you to tune in for a few minutes where I'm going to talk to step 3, which is all about being structured and steady, which I know may not sound all that exciting. For some of you, that's great. You really welcome some structure and a framework to work within. And others of you, for instance, and I know from clients who are in a very creative space, for instance, that can sound restrictive, but it actually doesn't need to be, and it shouldn't be if it's set up in a way that is supportive to you, your way of working, and your goals. And so I'll talk about that a little bit more. If you haven't checked out steps 1 and 2, I invite you to do that. You can head over to the blog at shannonjamescoaching.com to find steps 1 and 2, where you want to get really clear on your vision and your desired outcomes before you move into taking action. And I want to talk for a minute about the 3 things that I see really getting in the way of taking more aligned action and knowing when to adjust course. And those 3 things are, one is having a misalignment with the vision to begin with. So for instance, if you're in an organization and you're working with a team, you may not have buy-in from all of the stakeholders that are delivering on an important project for your business or for your client. You may not have buy-in from an executive level, from a higher level up in the organization, from a different part of the organization. That's often where I see a misalignment come in. And I see the same thing happening with us as individuals, as leaders, as business owners, as someone who's wanting to make a change in perhaps the balance of your life and your work, for instance. Is there a real alignment? Perhaps you have a vision, but you also have some resistance. So it's like one of my mentors likes to say, it's like you're driving down the road and you've got the handbrake partway on, right? It makes it a lot more difficult to steer the vehicle. And to get to where you're wanting to go. So I invite you to consider, number 1, do you have that alignment? And where you don't have the alignment, where you don't have it within yourself, where you're questioning some of your own goals or how you're going to get there, or where you don't have it within your team, your organization, or with your customer, what can you do now to achieve more clarity, to achieve more buy-in? Whether that's an emotional component, fear of change or the unknown, or whether that's putting some resources towards it. And that ties into one of the other challenges that I see. So number 2 is, do you have sufficient resources for what you're trying to achieve? And that comes in all shapes, forms, and fashions. If you're trying to achieve a personal goal, perhaps you're wanting to get more fit this year or lose weight, it may be important that you have support in terms of a professional that you're working with that's going to help you to achieve your goals. Maybe you want to work with a personal trainer, for instance, or coach to help you set up a program that's going to work for you. That's so much of what I do in the coaching programs I do, as well as the consulting work, is to work with the organization or the individual to structure a plan and a program that will work for their specific goals. And that's so much about what this step is about, that you need a structure and you need a framework that's going to support you, that's appropriate to the level and the difficulty and complexity of the goal that you're working toward. And something that is sustainable, that you'll do, that you won't just have as a something that you start out doing the first month or two or even the first quarter of the year and it falls by the wayside. So number 2 to consider is realistic resources, and having sufficient resources and aligned resources. And then the third, which is your deadline and your schedule, having a realistic schedule. And that also is a real challenge for very smart, successful people. I see it all the time in my consulting work and in my coaching work. What's realistic? We want to perhaps have a bit of a stretch and a bit of a challenge, and yet if we cross that line and we're stretching too far, or we're asking our team to stretch too far, then we've lost that edge and we've gone into the territory of being ineffective. And I see that happen so often, where resources and teams are just stretched beyond the limit for too long. It's one thing maybe to hustle for a few days or weeks or even months, but that's not sustainable for success over the long term. And so you want to have that alignment within your resources. You want to have appropriate resources, and then you want to make sure that you're working to a realistic deadline and schedule. And so those are 3 things to watch out for in terms of taking more aligned action. And a 4th piece that's really supportive of this is communication. And this is supportive maybe most of all in the realm of how and when to adjust course. And so you want a structure and you want a way to check in on the progress that you're making. In a simple example of getting more fit, you want to have that structure and that steadiness of, you're going to regularly work out. Maybe you're going to meet with your trainer or coach. And then you want to have a way to know, is it that you're going to have a leaner body mass index? Is it that you're going to lose a certain amount of pounds? And are you going to check in with yourself weekly, every few days? How are you going to check in and measure that? Right? And so that applies to whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. And what's really important is that you want to have a way to communicate and check in with yourself, with your team, with your client, that's appropriate to what your goals are. And that's where I see the gaps come in. Like, we all get on some level, yet we do need a way to check, say, the status of a 2-year project. What are the milestones? What are the actions that individual team members are responsible for? At what points will we be delivering and communicating with the customer? How will they know where their project stands within our organization? All of that comes into that category of communication and checking in regularly. So I invite you to take a moment to think about how you can support yourself with a structure that feels workable to you, that's not too much structure for what your goals are, and that's not too little, that'll help you not only be more productive and get traction on your most important goals, but also to find that free time and that space in your day for the things that are important to you outside of those goals. So whether that's downtime with your family and loved ones and friends, or some time for yourself, some flex time, some quiet time, some meditation time, or time for a walk or exercise, whatever those pieces look like, having some structure and an appropriate structure for you that supports you is going to be key also to finding that free time and finding more freedom of time and flexibility. And so I invite you to give this a try and reach out if you'd like some professional guidance or support. I'd love to have a chat with you. I'll let you know if my background and experience is a fit for what you're looking for, and if it's not, then I will be happy to refer you to other resources in my network. And in the meantime, check out the guide that's linked above or below this video with the 5 steps to begin to set yourself up for more sustainable and sustained success as you define it this year and beyond. As always, thanks for tuning in. I hope this was helpful to you, and to see you next time. Have a great day.